Hey guys, this is Miss Young, and we're going to be taking notes over the third president, which is Thomas Jefferson. Remember, your acronym is We All Jump for Mad Money, and that represents Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe. So Thomas Jefferson is our third president. Some prior information you should know about Thomas Jefferson that we have discussed is that Thomas Jefferson was the chief author of the Declaration of Independence. Remember, he used the ideas of John Locke. Those ideas being life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and we call those unalienable rights. Thomas Jefferson was also an anti-federalist who argued that we didn't need the Constitution, we just needed to fix the AOC. And we know that the anti-federalist group eventually turns into the Democratic Republican, which is the political party that Thomas Jefferson is during his presidency. So get your pencils ready and let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start with our domestic affairs. One of the domestic affairs under Thomas Jefferson is the Louisiana Purchase. I'm going to go ahead and say that this is technically a foreign affair. I continue to struggle whether it is domestic or foreign, simply because domestic, it's our land. However, it is a transaction that involves another country. So I threw in the foreign. If you want to go ahead and draw an arrow from your Louisiana Purchase, just draw an arrow across Thomas Jefferson over to the foreign affairs on your graphic organizer, just to kind of help in your head know that this is more likely a foreign affair than it is a domestic. So in the Louisiana Purchase, this occurred in 1803. This was like the purchase of a lifetime. We buy this entire chunk of land that you see over here, this right here, like for $15 million. Now you're going, holy cow, that's a lot of money. Yeah, but not when it's by acre, it was 3 cents. That's fantastic. We literally doubled the size of our country. So here's the existing United States. Actually, we don't have Florida yet. Let's try that again. We have the existing United States, okay, as of 1783, once we won the American Revolution and we got it from the British, right? And now 1803, we purchased this Louisiana region and we just doubled our country. Super awesome, right? Here's the other main thing. We gained control of the Mississippi River. Remember, the Mississippi River is right here. If you go back to the Pinckney Treaty, where Thomas Pinckney made the agreement with Spain that we could then transport goods up and down the Mississippi River. Now we don't need permission from Spain because we just bought it from the French. Now you're probably trying to think, why does the French have it now? Well, somewhere in there, France ends up with this chunk of land from Spain, and France is currently in trouble. France went through what we know as the Reign of Terror. If you've ever seen Peabody and Sherman, the Reign of Terror is where literally they just started chopping the heads off of everybody who sympathized with the king or queen. And it got really ugly really fast. They're like, oh, you're crying because your dad got his head chopped off? Well, how about you get in line too? So it was really bad. Well, Napoleon Bonaparte, if you've ever heard of this guy, Napoleon steps in, and he's kind of crazy. He has what we now refer to as like the little man syndrome, because he was a very short fella, and it's as if he had this really cocky attitude because he was just such a short guy. That's kind of where little man syndrome comes from, is Napoleon. So Napoleon is out there to basically make a French empire and take over anybody and everybody, but he ends up needing the money because he's in so much debt at this point. Remember, war equals debt. So because of that, we like get a steal. We managed to buy this whole chunk for $15 million. Now you are going to need to memorize that, by the way. So just a heads up. So yeah, Louisiana Purchase, kind of a funny story. Get it for a steal, pretty fantastic, and we double our country. The next domestic affair, and this is genuinely a domestic affair. This one is kind of difficult to understand. Hopefully by now, since you saw the video, you'll kind of have a better understanding of how this kind of works out. You mainly need to know the issue, the decision, and the significance of the Marbury versus Madison case. So here's the issue. Marbury, that's this guy, did not get his letter to be a Supreme Court judge from Madison. That's this guy, James Madison, okay? Not the president yet, but he's going to be the 4th president. That's Madison. But he is the secretary, one of the cabinet people under John Adams, okay? So let's get this clear. Thomas Jefferson is the president we're talking about right now. Just before him is John Adams. John Adams, at the last minute, decides to throw in a bunch of Supreme Court judges that are Federalist into the Supreme Court. Remember, Supreme Court makes up our judicial branch. Now, that's the night before Thomas Jefferson is officially president. Well, Thomas Jefferson is a Democratic Republican, and the letters don't get sent out just in time, right? They just quite didn't make it out. Thomas Jefferson shows up to his first day on the job, and Madison's like, you want me to send out the letters? Because I really don't want to. And Thomas Jefferson's like, it's a bunch of Federalists. No, don't send them. Well, Marbury, okay, remember that's this guy, he gets his feelings hurt. He's like, that's not fair. I need my letter. And he has all this, justifiable reason. So he sues Madison, this guy, for not giving him his letter. And it all boils down to one guy named John Marshall. John Marshall is the chief Supreme Court justice. What that means is he is the leader of the team. Okay? He's not higher up in ranking. He's a judge just like the other Supreme Court judges, but he's kind of like he's like the team captain. He's the team captain for the team. He just speaks on behalf of the team. John Marshall's decision was that, sorry, Marbury, you're not going to be a judge, because that Judiciary Act you're trying to use as reason why you should get your letter, that was unconstitutional in the first place. So the significance here is John Marshall's decision strengthens the judicial branch because it allowed the Supreme Court, the judicial branch, to have what we call judicial review. It's basically where the judicial branch can review any law that Congress or the president tries to create, or Congress, excuse me, not president, that Congress creates and decides if they're with the Constitution or against the Constitution. Okay, it reviews those laws. It's a judicial review, reviewing laws to determine if it's constitutional or unconstitutional. There will absolutely be a question about Marbury versus Madison on your STAR test. It has been every year that we've had an 8th grade STAR test. So you need to understand what judicial review is, and that it is where you get, and that you get judicial review from Marbury versus Madison. Make sure you have these written down and move on when you're ready. All right, now our foreign affairs under Thomas Jefferson. This is the Embargo Act. The Embargo Act, oh goodness, bless Thomas Jefferson. The Embargo Act is where we cut off all trade with all foreign countries because of impressment. Impressment, if you remember from your glossary, is where the British were basically stopping our ships as we were trying to send our ships over to make trade, okay, to trade goods. And they would stop our ships, take our men off of our ships, and force them to be British soldiers. It's so silly. We've been really having some issues as we try to trade with Europe. France, earlier with John Adams was blowing up our ships because they were mad we wouldn't join their side. Now we have the British, who is enforcing impressment, taking our men off of our ships and forcing them to be British soldiers. The whole reason for this embargo was to keep us out of the Napoleonic Wars. Like, if we don't trade, then we're not going to be sending ships, which means they're not going to be stopping us and taking our guys. Here's the problem. It absolutely failed. It ends up hurting our economy. We were not ready to stop trade with other countries. When we trade with other countries, that means we're getting goods that we can't make or grow in our own country. And so we have stuff that they need, they have stuff that we need, we make a trade. Well, our country was not ready to handle taking care of our own needs. It's coming, but it wasn't ready yet. And it completely crippled our economy. Remember, economy is involving what is it that we do to make money. We did not have the means to make our own stuff and to grow everything that we were using. And it really had a negative effect. And so he created the Non-Intercourse Act. And that is our next. That is our next foreign affair, is the Non-Intercourse Act. And it pretty much just opened up trade back with everybody in the world that we were trading with, except for France and Britain. We're like, you know what, we can do this. We can play this game. You can't have anything that we need. We don't want anything that you have. We'll just trade and find it from somebody else. Because France was blowing up our ships under the XYZ affair. Britain's taking our guys off of our boat right now. We don't want anything to do with them, really. They're just being a bunch of punks. So the Non-Intercourse Act kind of helps fix the problem with our economy. We're able to trade with everybody once again. We pull ourselves out of that, the lowly ways of our economy, and we just completely ignore France and Britain at this point because they're being rude. So make sure you have all of your notes taken. Move on when you're ready. All right, so now you're going to be gluing this into your notebook. At some point, get you some glue, but pay attention first to where you need to glue this. It's going on to page 63. 62 should have your map that you completed in the online stations. Okay, so 62 should have your Louisiana Purchase map. And then 63 is your notes from today. Glue them all the way down.